All right, let's jump right in. We're going to break down this really powerful, kind of counterintuitive idea about making an impact. It comes from this ancient text, and honestly, it suggests we might be getting it all wrong when it comes to making a real difference. It all kicks off with the feeling that I'm pretty sure we've all had. That nagging sense that we just don't have enough, right? Not enough resources, not enough confidence, not enough power. Just not enough of something to really handle the big stuff in our lives. So we're always on the hunt for that bigger, better solution. And here's the thing that's so fascinating. This is not a new problem. This exact same plea shows up in the source text we're looking at. You have these followers, they're feeling totally overwhelmed, and they basically shout, increase our faith. Give us more. If we just had a stronger faith, then we could handle all this. It's the same feeling we have today, just thousands of years ago. So that brings us right into our first part, the demand for more. This is really the foundation for this whole discussion, this deep human instinct. I mean, the logic behind this seems solid, doesn't it? The disciples, and hey, us too, we believe the solution is about quantity. A big problem needs a big faith. A huge challenge needs a huge resource. They thought the answer was, a simple upgrade. But the response they get just completely flips the script. And that leads us to our second section, the surprising power of small. This is where we get a totally radical counter-argument. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. This slide kind of lays out the whole pivot. The source doesn't give them a 10-step plan for getting more faith. Instead, it argues that the entire question is just wrong. The reframe isn't, okay, here's how you get a bigger faith. It's more like, whoa, hang on, you're completely misunderstanding what this is. You already have enough. And this is where we get that famous metaphor, mustard seed faith. Now, a mustard seed is tiny. I mean, it's almost nothing. But the point isn't its size. The point is the explosive, incredible life that's packed away inside it. So the power isn't in the volume, right? It's in the vitality. So let's really break this metaphor down because it's so important. A seed that's just sitting on a shelf, it's nothing. It's just potential, a dry little speck. But the second you plant it, the second you take that action, you're giving it over to this whole process that's way bigger than the seed itself. And that's when the life inside just cracks open and starts to do its thing. So here's the big takeaway from that. It forces this huge shift in focus. The source material is basically telling us to stop trying to measure how much faith we have, and instead it asks a much more direct question about what we're doing with it. Is that faith, no matter how small you think it is, just sitting on a shelf? Or have you actually, planted it? Okay, but what does planting it even look like in real life? Well, the text doesn't just leave us with the seed metaphor. It gives us a second image to deepen the meaning. Which brings us to part 3, faith as quiet service. Now, this is the second image we get, and to be honest, it's a little jarring. After all this talk about uprooting trees with tiny seeds, we suddenly get this humble, almost stark picture of a servant, someone who does their job, comes inside, and just keeps on working without expecting any special praise or a big thank you. And this is just a brilliant way to show the contrast with how we usually think about making an impact. We tend to believe that making a difference has to involve these grand gestures, right? Big, visible, miraculous moments, the kind of stuff that gets you noticed, that gets you applause. But this servant metaphor, it points in the complete opposite direction. So, how do these two things, this tiny little seed and this quiet, unassuming servant, how do they fit together? That brings us to our synthesis in section 4. Seeds, servants, and impact. Okay, this slide right here is the aha moment. Seriously, when you put these two metaphors next to each other, the logic just clicks into place. Think about it. A planted seed and a faithful servant. They both do their most important work completely out of sight. The seed is underground, the servant is unnoticed. The power is hidden. It's not about some spectacular display. It's about the quiet, unseen, faithful process. So true impact, according to this text, is measured by this quiet aliveness and sense of duty, not by how loud the applause is. All right, so let's pull this down from the abstract and get real about it. What does this actually look like in our day-to-day lives? That's section 5, your everyday mustard seed faith. Well, it's not about delivering some grand, eloquent speech. It's the simple text message check-in to a friend you haven't heard from. Just a tiny little seed of an action, planted in a moment. And it's not about having the perfect answer to solve someone's pain. It's that quiet service of just showing up, of being present with them when they're grieving or confused, even when you have absolutely no idea what to say. It's not about winning every argument. It's that small, unseen kind of underground work of humility. Admitting you were wrong when every single part of your ego is screaming at you to just let it go. And it's not about some huge act of charity. Sometimes it's as small and simple as remembering someone's name the second time you meet them. That little act that just says, I see you, you matter. And that really leaves us with the core takeaway, doesn't it? The source text isn't asking us to magically conjure up more faith so we can go move mountains. It's asking us to look at the tiny, fragile, maybe barely there seed of trust or kindness that we already have, and to just plant it. So the question really isn't, how do I get more? It's, what am I going to do with the little bit that I have? So I'll leave you with this. What tiny seed will you plant today?